Hello, hello. This is Mike Cardis, and recently I transitioned from a external organization development consultant to an internal organization development consultant. And as I was going through this process, I noticed that things became incoherent. And by incoherent, what I mean is that my sense of identity shifted. And this shift caused some loss of who am I? What am I doing? Where does my work begin and end? How does my process pick up? This incoherence meant that the voice inside of my head that interacts and gives me the identity of what I am and who I am over a long period of time was not consistent, hence the incoherence. And I experienced some really interesting things as a person and now as an employee from that. So today I'm going to walk through some perspectives I'm picking up on early in my new role on how we see internal versus external consulting and expertise. So to begin with, I want to share this wonderful quote that comes from a gentleman named Burke, but I originally found it in Chris Mall's work on the book Complexity. And the quote goes like this, and it's really appropriate to anybody who has just joined an organization, anyone who's just joined a new team, or even I think about myself. So for 15 years, I ran a external consulting firm working with international and local organizations. Now I'm an internal person. So the quote says, imagine that you enter a parlor. You come late. When you arrive, others have long preceded you, and they are engaged in a heated discussion, a discussion too heated for them to pause and tell you exactly what it's about. In fact, the discussion has already begun long before any of them got there, so that no one present is qualified to retrace for you all the steps which have gone before. You listen for a while until you decide that you haven't caught enough of the tenor of the arguments. Then you put in your oar. Someone answers, you answer him, another comes to your defense, another aligns himself against you to either the embarrassment or the gratification of your opponents, depending on the quality of your ally's assistance. However, the discussion is interminable. The hour grows late. You must depart, and you depart with the discussion still vigorously in progress. What an excellent way to look at an organization. It's a long, consistent conversation of individuals inside the organization interacting. They're being coherent. And when you look at an organization, much like I just described about myself, the beginning may not be something you're aware of. The middle is something you walk into. And the end, you're not going to see because you leave. So as I read this quote, I think about two major areas that I'm currently experiencing inside this new organization. One is this, the power of allies. Many of you know that when you have an ally that has sway, impact in the organization, it can help you navigate the hurdles and the consistent needs of how to make it inside this environment. It helps you do better. If your allies are not those people, if your allies are folks who are on the fringe and aren't part of the structural conversation of groups, it's really hard to fit in and feel a sense of purpose inside the organization. Allies matter. Allies matter deeply to the work you are doing and fitting in the organization and feeling part of the work. The other thing I think about is the need for other folks in the room to help you understand the context of what's going on. So when you walk in that room, you think you know what the fuck is happening. You may not. Other people will give you context based upon their perspective, and you need to gather that context and hear their feedback and hear their ideas. The next part I want to share are looking at some of these pieces about internal versus external understanding. And by internal, what I mean is like my new role now as a organization development specialist inside an organization is internal understanding. How do I begin to create more understanding of things inside the organization? And I thought about these following areas: knowing and being part of the story. Now that I'm inside the organization, I'm part of the story. I'm inside making a difference. Connection, or the mask you wear in the story. The Goffman dramatological idea of organizations. All the world's a stage. It's the masks we wear inside that organization that make us aware of what we're doing and what we're not doing, and how we take that mask off and put on a different mask. The family mask, the father mask, the consultant mask varies based upon the groups we're a part of. Personal relationships with supporters and detractors. There's going to be time inside the organization when you have to put forward an idea. Some of the folks who are your friends, those allies, will support the idea. Some will detract or not be a fan of the idea. You still have a personal relationship with those people. How do we navigate that? What do we do about that? How do I handle that internally? Do I want to ruin friendships? How do I navigate that? All those parts create a sticky messiness. Internal experience that shows what gets rewarded and what gets punished. As an inside person in an organization, which is new to me, I'm watching and observing what gets reinforced, what gets folks rewarded with work, workspace, location, perks, recognition, gets their voice heard, and what gets them punished, meaning they get pushed in the corner, not listened to, labeled as troubled employees. And as you see those things, inevitably, with those roles and masks you wear, you change your behavior to match those rewards and punishment processes. Knowledge of tempo. As an external consultant, I thought things could move pretty fast. As an internal person, you'll recognize things don't move that quick, or certain things move based upon business or personal motivation to make things happen. So feeling the overall business motivation to change. Sometimes in business motivation, they just want access, understanding, and knowledge. Do some research, come back, show me the articles, and maybe we'll do something about it. Or they may say, at this point, we have the idea, we're not motivated to change yet, let's try something different, or let's not do anything. That's part of being an internal employee. Knowing who the internal few are and what they want and how that causes deficits in others. Understanding that in most organizations, there is a strong group of employees that run most things. They have power, sway, politics, connections, and they run a lot of the operations. As an internal employee, you're going to notice these things. I'm picking up on some of them, but I don't know all of them yet. It's interesting to think about that, though. There was an article I read a couple of years ago that was talking about the Pareto principle, the 80-20, right? That the 20% of folks do 80% of the work. Actually, I think what I read about in the article was it's truly the square root of the total number of employees who are the power brokers who accomplish most of the work. So if you have 1,000 employees, right, 100 employees are the ones that are power brokering most of the operations. Interesting. Think about that sway. The powerful few can overcome the many. At the end, also a reflection on, will I stay or will I go? As I've been meeting with many short-term and long-term staff, and myself as I sit there, you're consistently pondering, how long am I going to stay? What if I go? What will happen? As an internal employee, these are considerations. Going on the other end, these are what I call considerations of external understanding. Now, as an outside person for years, I saw a lot of the outside things, right? So when you're an outsider, people openly share stories that they may not share publicly. Oftentimes, it was always comforting to me that when the door closed, because I was not an inside person in the organization, I didn't have a history or an axe to grind or personal motivation to be there, people felt comfortable opening up to me. That's an outsider understanding. That may not happen when I'm an insider. Observer created reality. The outsider makes things different just by being there. The mere fact that the company paid for an expert, brought them in, asked them to sit with your team, will make the team act differently. Anytime you introduce a new metric or somebody to the team, there's a difference. And the outsider has to be aware that just their mere presence will cause a difference in the organization. Focus on doing good work in the present and looking for your next contract. As an outsider, you're always trying to find your next contract without understanding the internal politics. Sometimes you may not care very much. I mean, you care about the understanding and the people, yet you're always saying, where's my next check coming from? How do I require long-term revenue streams? As an insider, I'm not feeling that. As an outsider, I consistently felt the need to find new contracts, bring new money in, fill that pipeline. As an outsider, you have limited knowledge of tempo. How fast do things work? What's the current work in progress? Do I really care? As an insider, I care deeply about these things now. I go, what is a work in progress? What are your priorities? How much work do you currently have? What can we do? Can we make things simpler, smaller, different? Can I connect new people? Do I leave you alone for a while? As an external person, your work in progress didn't matter much because I was there to grind things and do a job. It was a different perspective. Neither was good or bad. It just was a different way to view the work. I'm going to skip a couple of these. Lack of caring about job security internally. As an external person, consultant, I wasn't worried about job security inside your organization. I was worried about doing the work, satisfying the person that contracted me, achieving the objectives of the folks that contracted me, and then getting out. As an internal person, I got to think about longevity. How long am I going to work there? How secure is my job? If I start creating riffles or ruffles or challenges amongst individuals, will I lose my work? Finally, at the end, there's this reflection and ponder on who else can I get to make another sale? As the external person, you're always thinking sales, marketing, deliverables. Neither is good or bad. It's just recognizing that internally, both these things matter. So as an external internal consultant, both parts matter. But now as I've shifted myself to a full internal consultant, I'm enjoying creating a new coherence based upon data I'm picking up on to figure out what impact can I make. So those of you out there who are internal consultants, what on this list did I share that rings true for you? What should I have added? Those of you who are external organization development or training and development consultants, what did you think about my list? Is it accurate? Did I miss some parts? Overall, remember this. Coherence to who you are is the story you tell to yourself and the interactions you have with that voice inside your head. At some point, that voice is going to be incoherent or inconsistent. That means you are challenging your personal identity as a person. Who am I over a period of time? Am I consistent? Am I coherent? And shifts in large environment or changes in jobs, like I just went through, causes inconsistent incoherence in what you're currently doing. This matters because you have to try to create coherence as quickly, I don't say as quickly, but you want to try to create coherence to understand who you now are. If you live in that inconsistent incoherence, you'll feel stressed and you'll burn out. So again, I'm Mike Cardis. Thank you for watching the video. Please like and subscribe.